substantiate it so that when an auditor comes in, we don't have any problems. So that's what we're here for. In terms of some other forced to go head into kind of like a touchless society. Instead of, pushing or pulling doors, we are looking at automatic doors. Nobody's going to be using cash anymore. Everybody's going to be using their phones, So those are some of the things. I think some of the other governmental entities as tribes, if they're changing up their doors, for instance, into automatic doors. And so those are things that some of the state and local and other tribes are looking to using the CARES funds for, to make some of those changes within their workplace, their schools, and so forth. Delegate Daniel Shiaj, Audit and in terms of, I believe, a vendors by not just yourself, but a few of the other delegates, especially with the Resource and Development Committee, last week, audit, in terms of base of Proprietary Fund, CARES Fund, recommend Isha. So there's a couple of reasons why. The CARES Fund, I would say it's allowable to be treated as assistance payment. So, and I think I mentioned it before, at an individual level, sometimes we have to think about any individual tax implications. So, audit announced on an individual basis, audit our CARES Fund, assistance program set up in terms of any federal income tax consideration. Regarding the Proprietary Fund, not only did I say and recommend that we use CARES funds, I see it's for that purpose. It is allowable. So Proprietary Fund, those are essentially Navajo Nation dollars. So some of the consideration we have to take into would be the implications on distributing money to individuals. IRS audit tax and as I mentioned earlier last week, it started with the per capita payments from some of the per cap tribes. So because tribes were trying to circumvent the federal income tax taxability of per capita payments, some of the tribes will start distributing through their governmental functions. And so as a result, Aja Oyo IRS so because of that, when it comes to outright distribution and assistance from other monies other than CARES, then we have to take a lot of things into consideration on how this program would work in outright distributing to individuals. So those are a lot of tax implications that we have to look into. So Proprietary Fund so in terms of CARES Fund, AIC, it is for that purpose. The one thing that I would caution against would be the way Parks and Recreation has set it up. I took a look at it. I had a chance to look at it since then, and I believe it's based on, it's more of an individual distribution based on, I want to say, going back for a number of quarters, whether they've paid their permitting. And so that is a little problematic. The key thing on giving out financial assistance regarding CARES Act is what we call the means assessment or a means test. And I talk about eligibility criteria. And I mentioned before, Treasury guidance says that you can define your eligibility criteria. They do give you the latitude to put something in place. You just have to do it. So in terms of how they set it up might be a little problematic. Regarding the three different, right now, as I know, Parks and Recs has their program, and the document that I reviewed, some of it went to individuals, others went to chapters. There's that, and then there's also the Diné Chambers of Commerce. There's that proposal or amendment. And I did review some of that. Their criteria is a little more involved as the Division of Economic Development. And I did get a chance to work with the Division of Economic Development, and I think that's the one I'm assuming the President is working on as well. Those are the ones. So there's three going on right now. My understanding on DEDs, what they've been working on, that one was including the vendors and the Parks and Recs, the very one that you're talking about, Division of Economic Development. And I believe the same thing with the Net Chambers. The only thing about the Net Chambers of Commerce, if that's the one that gets approved, in that situation, the monies is granted from the Navajo Nation to a nonprofit entity. So the nonprofit entity has to do the distribution as opposed to Division of Economic Development. In working with Division of Economic Development, they have already a program identified, I believe, for a few months now. And so we're just helping to advise them so that it meets the criteria of CARES. Not only do we have to worry about meeting the criteria of CARES, but also that the other consideration is July we have a little over 5 months to do this. So that's another practical implication that we have to take into consideration, because how is this going to work? You can imagine how many vendors, in working with Mr. J.T. Woolley, we were talking about 6,000 essentially businesses that he's identified. And if that's the numbers we're working with, then I don't know how the Net Chambers of Commerce is going to address those numbers and how fast they can get theirs done up and running. I know in working with economic development, they already have their program identified, their eligibility criteria, and the eligibility criteria can be changed up. Some of the things, consideration is, as I mentioned, you have to make it as simple as possible, as much as you can, but still meet the compliance requirements for CARES and Treasury guidance. And then, how do you do it? I mean, in working with economic development, we talked about setting up a portal, and so your small businesses and your vendors, they have the ability to go online. That portal can be accessible by phone, and you have your baseline application, maybe a few uploads of certain documentation, for instance, your CIP, and then you self-certify, and that information gets to our office, and we're cutting checks. So we've discussed a number of things, such as can we use pay cards, or is the checks the best option? Can we do direct deposits? Do we need to jump certain security hurdles within our systems? Those are things we're doing on the background. But I think the key thing to these financial assistance programs is how fast can we get the money out, and how are we doing the document retention so that we can meet the audit requirements. So, and then also at the same time, we're complying with the CARES Act and the Treasury guidance. So some of these programs, they've been already instituted at other tribal nations, and state and local government. So it's being done, they're being rolled out. And so as far as the controller's office, we did outsource some of these to our accounting firms, including our Navajo-owned CPA firm as well, to help with these endeavors.
Thank you, Madam Controller. I got two new players in the queue. Honorable Vice Chair Smith.
Good afternoon, Speaker. Shad, can you hear me? Oh, thank you. Audit Controller Shad, the reports regarding the CARES Act and all that information. Shananta, did I see Zates would ako Asia Teo Hanado be Azundo Hala Eya Pesodo and Sodo Nanashigi. Asian let you tata Bansuki so Skizo Kadan December 30th. 5 months it's the Ato that peso and yay ajib the habis of course, I'd like to give my rest of my time to Delegate Honorable Brunel Holona, Chair. Thank you.
That Honorable Holona, 4 minutes and 3 seconds. Are you good with that?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you.
Good.
Ms. Kirk, President Kirk, thank you again for giving us the report. I want to go back to that 4E. It's a little disheartening to know that reports and all that is just sitting on the floor in your office, because the last I heard, there was about $8 million that drawdown qualified for if the programs are still in place. And so, we need that funding to come back to the nation. We knew about this last summer when we were working on it. We first started working on it. And in one of the meetings that we had, your staff was there, and they had referred to and told the committee that we're there. We were working on this a year ago. We were listening about this a year ago, and ever since then, a whole year went by again. So I really think somebody needs to start working on that. And now that this year, the excuse now is that it's sitting there because of the pandemic and the funding that we're getting from the CARES Act. And of course, you know, I understand that that's a big issue now. But this was on the board, on the books, for over a year and a half already. Your staff had admitted to us that they had already been talking about it, and still nobody's working on it. There was a trip to San Francisco for a week, 3 days or something like that, to learn about that program. And then after that, there was another trip where they had a meeting up in Denver to go over that program again. And so, you know, I don't understand why, if we're making all these trips to try to figure out how this program works, we're still not working on it. So I just wanted to put that out there and make sure that I know these things are difficult to do. But I just wanted to let you know that I really feel bad about that, just still sitting there on the floor. And that's a lot of money, and it's probably going up even higher. The last number I heard was $8 million that we need to get back on those drawdowns. And of course, you know as well as I know, the nation could really use that funding, especially with the loss of our power plant over there in Page. So I just want to put that out there and let you know that I really think we need to get started on some of that. If you're going to hire somebody, an outside firm, to go ahead and do it, to get that done, then maybe we need to get that done. But we need that funding to come back to the nation. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. With that, moving on down on new player, Chairman Nez, go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker Damon, Arosan and Bishop Anna Senegi. Aroche, Madam Controller, Ms. Perling Kirk, Kodota. I seen Hitna Hassan, another dish kitten, so I dine in under a kit. As the sort of Islehoro. Here, exempt employees, though non exempt case at as a done and exhibition. Here, exempt employee case, here, paper, a hot, here, pay, in a game, here, safe, hazard pay, and all that. Here, they also not ask it out, okay.
Okay, let me go down to one more individual, new individual in the queue, and then I'll come back to you, Madam Chair, or Madam Controller. Chairman Hino.
Speaker Damon, Ashland, 24th Navajo Nation Council, Honzal is just Nadik Kidi, Adashima, our controller, Perlin Kirk, and your staff. They've always done a good job for the Budget and Finance Committee, providing us updates as far as the market is concerned, and the updates and everything. I think you have a really good person in there, Britt Monica, that is on top of a lot of the financial information for the Navajo Nation. And he has the best interests of the Navajo Nation in heart as part of this job. So really want to commend Mr. Winika, who's a young man that's part of your staff. And so just keep hoping that he really passes that little hump and gets his CFA and become a certified financial analysis. That would be big plus for the Navajo Nation. And if we manage to get him on board with that certification, it would be, in my mind, it would be like a really good giant step. So for that to happen. And as far as all the questions for those Chairman Nez, and I did kitchen some. And I just my list that across because a lot of these questions have been asked and you've answered them. And so with this, thank you, Shema, for providing, being patient with us, being patient with the Navajo Nation Council, especially over the weekend, the Hisson stuff. We had our KFT work session, so I really do appreciate what you do for us as